Lucas. I'm with the public staff of the Utilities Commission. Public staff represents the using and consuming public in matters before the commission. And we've holding these poultry waste to energy meetings for about 10 years now, maybe 11 years. And this is just a stakeholder meeting to gather ideas, hear other people's input. Of course, it's not a formal hearing. There are no commissioners here. So we'd like to keep it open conversation. The North Carolina Poultry Federation has sent around some questions we're going to go through. And that's not to limit the conversation. We will work on those questions and get input from various parties. And that's a great thing. We've had a lot of success with poultry waste to energy. Last year was the first year that we met compliance with the law completely. Did not require any modification or delays from the Utilities Commission. And want to keep that going. I know turning poultry waste and electricities is not always super easy. So it's can't guarantee that everything's going to work out well year after year. And we will have mics going around. Also, we have the sign up sheet going around. Make sure you signed up before you've left. I appreciate that. I will start going through. We have 12, maybe more people attending virtually, and I'm going to go through them first, and then we'll go around the room in here and introduce everybody. Okay. Joseph Birschbach, are you here? Are you online? Okay. How about Gray Stiers? Okay. Christopher Hopkins. And John, if they speak up, can we hear them, John?
Yes, should.
Okay. Ramesh Ravella.
Yes.
Okay, great. Ramesh is here.
Good morning.
George Hitch.
Yes, good morning, Jay.
Great, George. Glad to have you. Blakely Hildebrand.
Yes, good morning. I'm here.
Okay, great. Thomas Pettinger. Okay.
He's here.
Okay. Maybe, and some people might be muted. Let's see. Kelsey Morris. TJ Higgins.
I don't believe TJ Higgins is on. My name is Josh York. I'm on for Carolina Power Partners.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what's your name?
Josh York, Y-O-R-K.
Okay, great. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, Christina Kress.
Yes, good morning, Jay, and everyone else in the room.
And let's see, Gus Simmons. Jeffrey Capadonna.
I'm here.
Great. Marty Berland. David Nestor.
Yes, good morning.
Great, David. Jeff Twisdale.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. And Michael Pope.
Yes, sir.
All right. Kayla McMurray attending. And first, we'll just go through the prescribed questions. Everybody needs a copy. I have a few extra copies. Anyone need one of the questions if you want to keep with you? All right. Well, actually, I'm sorry, I forgot to go around the room, everybody. Like I said, I'm Jay Lucas, and just go around and just speak into the mic, and we'll get it going.
Good morning, Bob Kaler representing Duke Energy and TVA.
I'm Whitney Gann with Duke Energy.
Megan Jennings with Duke Energy.
Kim Preston with Duke Energy.
Patterson, North Carolina Agri-Energy Center. Bob Ford, the North Carolina Poultry Federation.
Henry Jones, lawyer for the Poultry Federation.
Keith Lynch, Fayetteville, PwC.
Alec Nat Energy United.
Sherry Callery, Electricities.
Karen McClaga, Electricities.
Andy Fusco, Electricities.
Debbie Burritt, North Carolina Electric Cooperatives.
Hi, Tim Dodge, North Carolina Electric Cooperatives.
Rich Deming, Carolina Poultry Power / East Energy.
Good morning, Chris Roach, Monarch Bioenergy.
Sam McLam, Broad Energy Solutions.
Matt Gedney, Unicoi Energy.
Doug Audette, Atlantic Power and Utilities.
Michael Pajetra, Division of Water Resources.
Christine Lawson, Division of Water Resources.
Tom Felling, Staff Attorney with Public Staff.
William Creech, C. Creech, Staff Attorney with the Public Staff.
All right, thank you, everybody. Now we can start with the prescribed questions. Okay, first question, and like I said, we'll try to keep this an open forum. What progress has been made by each electric power supplier to meet the statutory requirements for 2024? And as always, Duke's the largest power supplier, so I'll start with Duke, please.
Duke Energy is in a position to be in compliance for 2024.
Yeah, you worked out a new contract with TVA, is that correct? For 2023, yeah, so I think they're in pretty good shape.
As detailed in our confidential report, NCEMC has sufficient long-term contracts to meet, but we are still waiting for a couple projects to come online. So we will likely need to work with some producers and other power suppliers, but I'm optimistic we'll be able to comply in 24.
Both power agencies are positioned to comply for 2024.
Energy United believes we'll be in compliance for 2024.
Fayetteville, PwC will be in compliance for 24.
Been used 2024. Second question, what are the results from each electric power supplier in identifying and negotiating agreements with developers?
Yeah, since our last stakeholder meeting, we've executed several amendments. A couple of projects have just needed to extend COD slightly, but they hope to be online. One came online earlier this year, and a couple more expected to come online later this year or in the coming years. So far, just amendments to extend COD slightly.
Nothing.
Yeah, no new long-term contracts. We did execute some short-term contracts for 23 compliance, but nothing big.
And although we look to be in compliance, we are looking for an additional out-of-state supplier.
We believe we have the contracts in place.
Fayetteville, PwC is still negotiating for long-term contracts.
Okay, what specific obstacles have been encountered in negotiating agreements with developers? How can these obstacles be overcome? And what steps have each electric power supplier taken to overcome any obstacles?
Can you all identify yourselves or your organization when you speak, if that's all right? Thank you.
Megan Jennings at Duke Energy. We haven't really encountered any obstacles negotiating agreements. It's become pretty straightforward, and as we work with some of the same developers, kind of they're used to all the terms we have, so no obstacles.
And I think TVA does have some issues where they're located, but they have been able to execute some contracts to buy the RECs from Duke.
Yeah, no issues from NCMC with negotiating contract.
And I'm Karen McClaga with Electricities, and we've encountered no obstacles.
Energy United has encountered no obstacles as well.
Same for Fayetteville PWC.
Okay, and George, for Dominion, can you speak to us about any obstacles or how your compliance appears for 2024?
Sure. Dominion can comply with the requirements in 2024. We haven't had any obstacles. We're not currently negotiating any contracts. If our contracts fully perform, we'll actually have excess poultry recs. So we can't really speak to number 3.
Okay, thanks. And Dominion's in a slightly different position from most of the folks in the room. Dominion's allowed to get all of its recs from out of state, whereas everybody else has to get 75% in state. All right, what can the North Carolina Poultry Federation do to expedite the process to assist the electric power suppliers and developers to achieve compliance with the statutory mandate?
This is my favorite point.
Okay. Okay, yeah, what can Bob Ford and his group do to help out? And I'll start with Duke Energy.
I think it's your favorite question because every year we all tell you that we're good. So yeah, no, we're happy with the partnership you've played, and we have several online producing poultry waste energy projects. So nothing at this time. Duke Energy.
Nothing to add for TVA.
Bob's doing a great job already.
Yeah, Debbie Britt for NCEMC, same, nothing needed from the Poultry Federation. Thank you.
Yeah, same with Electricities. We're good.
Energy United is good as well.
Fayetteville PWC is good.
Let's see. All right, the fifth question, are there any areas in the statutes that could be changed that would make it easier for the electric suppliers to successfully negotiate contracts with developers and meet future statutory poultry carve-out requirements?
No, we haven't encountered any issues in negotiating poultry contracts, so nothing, and we're in good shape for future compliance as well.
I think the only issue with TVA is they did have one project they were working on, but the developer couldn't move forward on it. So I don't think there's anything statutorily that needs to be changed to help with that.
Yeah, nothing for NCEMC.
Yeah, nothing for Electricities.
Nothing for Energy United.
Nothing for Fayetteville PWC.
All right, I know a lot of these questions we've had before, but here's a new one this year. Said, we have heard that there may be some interest in sunsetting the poultry carve-out in General Statute 62-133.8F at some point. How would your company, and I guess this goes to everybody, respond if a bill is introduced in the General Assembly to end the poultry carve-out?
Kim Preston with Duke. We've not had to address this issue as a company, but if we do, we would work with all stakeholders to fully understand the impact of policy change and work together to ensure a good path forward.
Be a similar response for TVA. It is.
Hi, Tim Dodge with NCMC. I'll respond for us on this question. Yeah, we can't really speculate at this point without seeing what the bill language would entail. We do serve, and many of our members serve a lot of poultry houses, poultry operations, and so we would certainly want to keep in mind whatever the potential impacts, costs or benefits might be for our members if such legislation was introduced. So.
I would say for electric cities, in the absence of a proposal, we, really couldn't comment on what the impact would be.
If it would provide more reliable, more affordable energy to our members at Energy United, it would be very positive.
Okay, but PwC has nothing additional to add. What's already been stated.
Thank you. Seventh question, are there any remaining interconnection problems or have the earlier backlogs cleared up? Will current interconnection standards allow poultry projects to obtain approvals on an expedited basis?
We're not aware of any projects that are trying to interconnect to Duke's system at this time, any poultry projects.
And not aware of any issues from TVA.
Yeah, Debbie Britt for NCMC. I'm not aware of any poultry projects trying to interconnect to our co-ops.
Same for electric cities. We're not aware of any.
Energy United does not have any.
Same for Fabo.
Okay, and George, I don't know if at Dominion, have you had any projects trying to interconnect to Dominion?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, thanks. And I think we've answered question number 8. How likely will each power supplier seek a delay? Seems like nobody is. And speak up if you anticipate a delay. I think y'all pretty much gave answer to that. And okay, the 9th question. Do the electric suppliers have any contracts that they classify as underperforming? Please explain.
We do have a couple of contracts that are underperforming. One has been shut down for a while and they're in the process of decommissioning it all. And then another one has kind of changed ownership and they're currently evaluating their path forward. So we're just kind of waiting to hear from them on that. But everything else has been great production.
Yeah, for TV, I'm not aware of any that are unperforming. There was one project that they hoped to bring online, but I think there were financial problems with that project, so it has not been able to come online. But it's not so much underperforming, it's just not freeform.
Where was the one that was decommissioned? Was that?
Something.
A little bit of that. So they produce thermotypes, which are anything. The Dukes. Yeah.
And I can clarify this a little bit. People talking about, we have some projects in South Carolina. On the electric side, if they're connected to Duke Energy, on their grid in South Carolina, it's considered in-state because the state law is written that if it's serving North Carolina customers and any power plants in South Carolina as far as the utilities operate, they're kind of blind to where the state line is. We have power plants in both states serving customers in both states. We don't appropriate anything regarding the state line. And let's see.
NCEMC does not have any contracts that are underperforming.
Same for electric cities.
Same for Energy United.
Same for Fabo.
And will underperforming contracts have negative implications on the rec volumes and pricing for other projects?
No, not for Duke Energy. These are smaller contracts and we've continued to sign new contracts to fill our compliance portfolio. So no negative implication.
None that I'm aware of for TVA.
None for NCEMC.
None for Electricities.
None for Energy United.
None for Fayetteville.
All right, thank you, everybody. We had a couple of questions from Prestige Farms, and we've already answered the first one. That was also one of the questions from the Poultry Federation. And this is sort of one more directed at the Utilities Commission. Have there been inquiries over the past 12 months to or by the North Carolina Utilities Commission regarding the long-term effectiveness or feasibility of SB 3? If so, what is the stance or recommendation of the NCUC for or against the continuance of SB 3? I can answer that. I'm not on the Utilities Commission. I'm on the public staff side. So I can't really directly speak for them. But if they were considering any kind of request or anything, I probably would have heard about it. I have not heard anything at all about the commission. And just my general experience, I mean, the General Assembly passes laws for the commission to follow, and the General Assembly can ask us to come down there. Every once in a while, they'll ask our opinion, either of the commission staff or the public staff, and we do answer questions, but of course, they make the laws we follow. And in some of the discussion, I can add a little color to it about changing the requirements. It's just last year, less than a year ago, the General Assembly changed it from renewable energy portfolio standard to clean energy portfolio standard. The only thing they did was add nuclear energy because it's clean. And some people ask, well, does this affect the poultry waste set aside? It won't. The poultry waste set aside is still there. It's 900 megawatt hours per year statewide, and or the thermal equivalent. So I don't anticipate the addition of nuclear energy to affect the requirement to meet poultry waste recs. And I know we've got a lot of experts also in the back of the room, and I know we've gone through these questions, and I bet you all have comments and opinions, and I'd like to just give you all a chance to speak up, and I'll just start with Rich, and I want everybody a chance to speak, and it's not just from this list. If you have additional questions to discuss, please do so.
Sure. I almost got up on that question. Oh, Rich Deming with East Energy. I almost got up on that question about what you do if SB 3 is they're under threat of repeal. I think we would vigorously educate the public on the effects on the environment and economic development, particularly in the eastern end of the state. You know, hundreds of jobs, and then probably thousands of ancillary jobs, not to mention hundreds of thousands of tons of carbon displaced into the environment, like due to this law. So we would definitely double or triple our efforts to educate the public and their representatives.
Sam McLam with Broad Energy Solutions. I work with 6 plants in North Carolina. And I'm just thinking back, the first meeting that I came to was June 9th, 2015. And what a difference first in the conversation tone. I mean, congratulations, everybody in the room, on success in many ways here. It's kind of hard to believe it's been that long. Things have changed dramatically. In terms of regulatory change, I had a hard time not standing up on that one also. But you know, as Rich said, we certainly would have a vigorous education campaign. And there are a few things to think about on this. One is that the plants that started back then, none of this has gone as smoothly as anticipated, both for utilities and for the plant developers. It has been a frankly brutal process. A lot of those pioneers in the field are finally like getting their feet underneath them at this point. And I get that pioneers usually are the ones that get the arrows, but you know, to do this at this point, I don't think is really a great thing whatsoever. Regulatory certainty is enormously important in all aspects of life. To think about the impact on recruitment, maintenance, repairs on existing facilities, much less think about future facilities. You know, the regulatory uncertainty has a significant negative effect. In addition, as Rich was talking about with carbon, a lot of things that have been missed on this are the impacts on water quality. I mean, one of these plants alone, we've captured almost 3 million pounds of phosphorus that's in an area that's already saturated. Soils are largely saturated with phosphorus. So we're able to capture that, densify it, and apply it in a controlled fashion or export it into areas that actually need the phosphorus. So we're starting to see real significant benefits on the air side, hundreds of jobs. I mean, not only from the plants, but also all the way down through the ash trucking and spreading across fields. And farmers are loving that too, because it's much more efficient for them. So in all, absolutely, we would be very vigorously involved in education on any potential regulatory change, because the impacts on that are enormous across the eastern North Carolina. Thank you.
You have to echo what Sam's saying. It has been difficult. That's why we're having these meetings for the past 10 years. I mean, we don't have these meetings for solar energy. That's gone through the roof in North Carolina. Also, George, since you're not present in the room, still, George, do you have anything to add about any of the conversation we're having?
No, not specifically. I think this is the first I've heard of any potential repeal or sunsetting. So I would have to take that back to our public policy regulatory folks and discuss that with them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I haven't heard a word. I'm sure the Poultry Federation has more ear to the ground at the General Assembly. I mean, the General Assembly just worked on it last year and made some big changes. I mean, that's not easy work. So it's hard to imagine they want to pick that up again and change it again. But that's my take. All right. Well, I want to open it up. I know we've gone through the questions and we've heard from a lot of people. Any burning issues, and just because if we break up this meeting, you don't have to wait a whole year to bring things up or create more discussions amongst the group. I know a lot of us are physically here present or online present. But anybody have any more comments, or want to have any discussions or anything like that while we've got everything recorded to put into stakeholder meeting? And I appreciate the discussions before the meeting. A lot of times y'all have good discussions after these meetings break up informally, and that's part of the value here. But before I conclude this meeting, does anybody have anything they want to weigh in on for the stakeholder
meetings compared to the ones you have in Swine?
Swine is usually more difficult. We've had a lot more trouble meeting the swine waste set aside. It's easier to turn poultry waste into electricity than swine waste. Poultry waste burns, swine waste doesn't. That's probably what it boils down to. Much trickier process with the digesters. We do have some folks that are putting poultry waste from processing facilities, putting that in anaerobic digesters, mix it with other waste. They put swine waste, food waste, all these different waste streams, and they're having some success. So that's how we do have a source of poultry waste RECs from the poultry processing plants on that route. Well,
Friend from NC State, if you want to.
okay, I'm sorry I didn't get to introduce you. Just get your name on the record so we know you're here.
Joseph Stuckey with the waste processing facility housed under Poultry Science with NC State.
All right. Thank you very much. And make sure everybody signs the sign-in sheet so we know you are here. Other than that, we'll conclude this meeting. And if you want to stick around for the swine waste meeting, we'll start that at 10 o'clock. Thank y'all.
Good job. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jay Lucas. I'm with the public staff of the Utilities Commission. Most of y'all know the public staff represents the using and consuming public before the Utilities Commission. Gathering here today for the Swine Waste to Energy meeting. We just concluded the poultry waste meeting just a few minutes ago. We've had constructive meetings in the past. We've made some headway in meeting the swine waste to energy set aside, but we have a ways to go still. And then we're going to be passing around the microphone and various people discussing various topics. But if you don't mind, just state your name and where you work. So as we go around and answer questions, we'll have it recorded who you are and what you had to say. We do have several people attending online, so it helps to have a microphone so they can hear what's going on. So as we get the microphone, I'll go through the questions, and the questions that Port Council sent around are not the only things we can discuss today. We will go through those questions, but I do want to open it up and hear what other people have to say. That's the purpose of these stakeholder meetings. It's not just a one-way flow of information. To want to keep the stakeholder process moving and dynamic, so we don't waste our time here. We want to hear problems and hear how we're going to solve them. First, I'm going to go through the roll call on the people who are attending virtually. Let's see. Joseph Birchback. And also, if folks who are attending virtually, make sure you're not muted when I call your name, because if I don't hear you, I don't know you're here. Grace Stiers. Christopher Hopkins.
Hey, I'm here. I work for
Okay.
NC State.
Okay, great, great. Ramesh Ravella.
Yes, I'm here with the Division of Water Resources.
Great to have you. George Hitch from Dominion.
Good morning again, Jay, and I'm joined by Lauren Biskey from Dominion Legal.
Okay, great. Blakely Hildebrand.
Good morning. This is Blakely Hildebrand from the Southern Environmental Law Center. Thank you.
Okay, it's great to have you, Blakely. We had a little bit of trouble hearing you. If you maybe could turn up your volume up on your end.
Will do. Thanks for letting me know, Jay.
That's great. No, that's perfect now. Thank you. Thomas Pettinger.
Hey, good morning. I work with Tennessee Valley Authority.
Great. Glad to have you. Kelsey Morris.
Good morning, everyone. Kelsey Morris, also from TVA.
Okay, great. TJ Higgins.
Yeah, I'm here for Carolina Power Partners, the aggregator for our 7 North Carolina towns subject to this reps.
Okay, thanks. Had a little bit trouble hearing you, TJ. If you could turn your mic up a little bit.
I'll work on it.
Christina Kress.
Yes, good morning, Jay. Christina Cross, appearing for Energy United.
Okay, great. Gus Simmons. Jeffrey Capadonna. Marty Berland. John Lehman. Larry Kellerman.
Good morning, Jay. It's Larry Kellerman.
Okay, great. David Nestor.
Good morning. I'm on.
Great. Jeff Twisdale.
Good morning. I'm with the Division of Air Quality.
Okay, great. Glad to have you. Let's see, Michael Pope. And Carla McMurray.
Hi, this is Kayla McMurray from the Tennessee Valley Authority as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I'll start around the room.
Bob Kaler for Duke Energy and TVA.
I'm Whitney Gann with Duke Energy.
Megan Jennings with Duke Energy.
And Kim Preston with Duke Energy.
Hi, I'm Kurt Olson with the I'm an attorney with the North Carolina Port Council.
Angie Meyer, North Carolina Port Council.
Keith Lynch, Fayetteville, PwC.
Alec Nat, Energy United.
Sherry Callery, Electricities.
Karen McClaga, Electricities.
Andy Fusco, Electricities.
Hi, Tim Dodge, North Carolina Electric Cooperatives.
Debbie Britt, North Carolina Electric Cooperatives.
Rich Deming, Carolina Poultry Power and East Energy.
Chris Roach, Monarch Bioenergy.
Sam McLean, Bright Energy Solutions.
Matt Gedney, Unicor Energy.
Terry Edwards, Monarch Bioenergy.
Christine Lawson, Division of Water Resources.
Michael Pajetra, Division of Water Resources.
Doug Audette, Atlantic Power and Utilities.
Joe Carroll, Montauk Renewables.
Thank you, everybody. And if you haven't signed up yet, please make sure we have the sign up sheet going around. Let's find it. You got, is that the swine waste? Okay, great. Yeah, we got it up here. So please remember to do that.
Hey, I had my microphone on mute earlier. Sorry, this is Gray Stiers with Fox Rothschild.
Okay.
On behalf
Okay.
of Fayetteville PwC and Carolina Power Partners.
Okay, great. Glad to have you. All right, I've got a few extra paper copies if you need one. I've got the questions that were submitted by the Port Council, and we'll just go through these one by one. And we'll start with Duke Energy, the largest power supplier, and we'll go around the room and get anything anyone has to say from the electric power suppliers, and we'll get comments from anyone else in the room also. The first question, please state your expected compliance status for calendar year 2024.
This is Kim Preston with Duke Energy. We are expected to, with the current level, we would need 82,000 RECs for DEC and 51,000 RECs for DEP, and we will not have enough RECs to meet compliance at current levels.
Bob Kaler for TVA. I believe we were short also, but I'll let one of my subject matter experts from TVA speak up if you can add anything differently.
Anyone at TVA want to add anything? Okay.
Debbie Britt for North Carolina Electric Cooperatives. We do not expect to be able to comply at the current levels.
Karen McClaga with Electricities. Neither power agency is expected to comply.
Energy United will not be in a position to comply.
Same with Fayetteville PwC. Will not be able to comply for 24.
Thank you. Second question. Oh, that's right. Invited Dominion.
Dominion will be able to comply, but I will point out that we will be using 100% out of state RECs to comply.
Okay, thank you. Second question, please state the number of in-state swine waste RECs that you anticipate that you will have at the end of calendar year 2024.
Kim Preston, Duke Energy. That information is confidential, but is in our semi-annual report filed June 1st.
And Esther, if something's confidential and you can't answer it, just state so, please. Okay, TVA's also has confidential information. Everybody confidential, all the power suppliers? Okay. Well, I mean, I think you do have some questions about explanation, but I mean, and that's actually that's the very next question. The third question, I guess, well, the third question looks into the future. How many swine waste RECs you anticipate having at the end of 2024, 2025, and 2026? And if the number does not change from year to year, okay, please explain if you believe that is reasonable. So if, like I said, if you have confidential information can't reveal, you can say so, but if there are some information you can give to answer the question, please do so.
Again, that information is confidential for Duke, but it is in our semi-annual report.
It doesn't increase. The second number of increases, we just can't tell you what the number. Yeah.
Nothing to add.
Okay, TVA doesn't have anything to add.
Hi, Tim Dodge with North Carolina Electric Cooperatives. That information, again, is confidentially filed in our semi-annual progress reports and our reps compliance plans and reports. And I just note that we haven't entered into an NDA with the Port Council, with other suppliers in the room, and they have access to that information. And so if there are questions about that, we're happy to discuss that further with other parties to provide that information. Similar to the answer Megan gave, we anticipate our inventory would continue to increase. I can't describe by what quantity, but it would also depend on any changes if we're continuing to bank recs or retiring recs or things along those lines too. So.
Yeah, that information is confidential. We're not going to disclose or discuss that here. I will note that, you know, we do have the NDA in place with the groups, and it's also in that semi-annual report.
Well, we're not asking for exact numbers, but you anticipated increasing.
And we're not going to discuss or disclose that.
This is Energy United. If the question is it increasing? I would say yes. I'm not going to tell you by what, that's confidential, but okay.
Fayetteville PwC has nothing additional to add.
Okay, I can add some personal observation. I mean, we have a stakeholder meeting, and I do want to keep information free flowing. Of course, you can't reveal confidential information. From here, everybody, a lot of them won't be able to meet the full requirement for 2024. I expect most of the power suppliers will be filing for a delay or modification, usually around September. But that will be an open proceeding before the Utilities Commission, and that is a point where everybody's subject to discovery and having to respond. So if you can't answer it today, you might have to start getting ready to answer it in September. The fourth question, if you plan to use a market-based approach to comply with the animal waste compliance obligations, please explain what that statement means and how you plan to implement it. And this isn't aimed at everybody. I know if anybody, and I'll just open up instead of having to go each electric power supplier. If you are using that type of approach, do you have anything to comment or add at this meeting? Go ahead.
That was a statement made in one of the reports. I don't want to reveal any confidential information, but it was an approach that was suggested by one of the participants here. And I'm just curious as what that means.
Okay, the fifth question, if you plan to only rely on contracts that are reasonable, please explain what you mean by reasonable. And if any particular power supplier wants to explain how they define reasonable at this time, anybody need to speak up, or anybody want to provide any information there? Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay.
I think this is similar to a response we provided in past discovery about how we would define reasonableness. And I'll just kind of repeat what we've said in some of the discovery that we've provided in past off-ramp proceedings, that each proposal requires its own specific analysis of the facts and circumstances associated with the project and to determine the reasonableness or in the terms associated with that contract. So it may include the location of the project, the maturity of the technology, the financial viability of the counterparty, fuel supply arrangements, timing of the proposal, electric and natural gas pipeline interconnection availability, terms and conditions of the contract, what attributes are being acquired, renewable or environmental attributes, or others, price relative to other contracts or options that are available, and the relative impact of the price on our compliance position. So that's just a list to provide some examples of some of those things that would go into that determination of reasonableness from our perspective.
In the context, in the context of price, and without revealing any confidential information, how do you determine reasonableness?
I think it's in that whole spectrum of topics I just described. And we've had the Optima KV, or not Optima KV, excuse me, request for declaratory review, motion for clarification that the joint hires filed, where that question about consideration was put before the commission. Address that, and so I would just refer you back to that December 2020 order that provided that description of consideration of prices, context of.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's any benchmarks you look at, any market analysis, any comparable pricing. How is a reasonable price for a rec determined?
I'll just refer you back to those comments. And, I know there was a follow-up motion for reconsideration.
And the commission made very clear that these were reasonable questions to ask, and so that's why I asked.
I'll leave that to, at this point, at least the discussion that are underway with
Okay, the sixth question. If you have had negotiations with bidders that do not meet your criteria, please explain your criteria and why the provider did not meet them. So if anybody wants to provide, or do you want to add anything to that? Or?
No, I don't think anybody's going to be answering this question, and it's probably a question we can skip.
Okay. And seventh question, what is the status of the buyers group that includes NCEMC, Energy United, Dominion Energy North Carolina, the North Carolina EMPA, the Electric Municipal Power Agency, North Carolina Municipal Power Agency number 1, and the Fayetteville Public Works Commission. And so what is the status of your negotiations with any developers that submitted conforming proposals in the 2020 RFP? And please explain any delays. So this side, if anybody want to explain.
Tim Dodge with North Carolina's Electric Cooperatives. We are members of the Joint Buyers Group. And I think generally the status of those negotiations are confidential. We've described those in our semi-annual progress reports and our reps compliance plans and reports over the past 2 years. There is not a executed contract for that facility. That's all I'll mention beyond that. But I think we can mention without violating the confidentiality provisions of those discussions. So.
The eighth question, please explain when the buyers group anticipates receiving any RECs from its bidders, and explain if the members of the buyers group plan to seek compliance delays from the Utilities Commission for the next few years. Anybody from the buyers group want to respond? Or?
This is Tim Dodge with NC Electric Cooperatives again. And I think generally I would say the same thing, that we view those discussions as confidential with regard to the negotiations taking place. I think the groups have already responded whether or not we anticipate seeking a delay for this off-ramp or for the swine waste set-asides in 2024. Again, if for a facility of the size and scale that we're talking about, it would require a sizable amount of lead time. So can't speculate as to how long that would take, but we're going to, in the meantime, we'll continue to look for any other spot market options or other reasonable means to comply during that time frame. But again, the status of the kind of timeline for this facility to come online is confidential as far as I'm aware within those discussions.
Okay, thanks. Ninth question, and this is for the entire group. Have any of you approached any developer identified in G9 sub 698 for renewable natural gas that docket number G9 sub 698 opened up renewable natural gas. Pilot project has been going on for a few years now. We've had several renewable natural gas developers participate. And I don't know all the status of all the gas deliveries, but I'll start off with Duke and about you're working with those developers.
Sure, yeah, we haven't approached developers, but several have approached us, and we have executed contracts with 3 or 4 RNG developers that are online and producing swine-derived biogas.
Not aware of any for TVA.
This is Tim Dodge with North Carolina Electric Cooperatives. We have not, similar to Duke, we have not approached any of these directed by or biogas generating facilities that have received approval under G9 sub 698. I will note that the joint RFP that was issued in 2020, all of the bids that were submitted, I believe, were participants had been authorized by the commission to participate in the alternative gas program. So we have continued those discussions under that joint RFP.
Other power suppliers want to add?
The power agencies have not sought any.
This is Gray Stiers, and I may defer to Keith Lynch here. We're not in a position on behalf of Fayetteville PWC to disclose a lot of details, but I will say that Fayetteville PWC is in the preliminary stages of evaluating the feasibility of doing a project itself, and that renewable alternative natural gas may be a component to such a project. It could well reduce the non-compliance levels in future years if we're able to find a commercially viable means of developing a project that could use alternative natural gas among other fuel supplies, and may have more information that we can disclose in the future. But we are looking at alternatives that will enable us to come in compliance in a commercially feasible manner. And again, very early preliminary stages that are being investigated internally by PwC staff at this time. Keith, I don't know if you want to add to that or if I've said too much, but I did want to express that.
No, I guess the short version I was going to say was, yes, we have approached developers for renewable natural gas.
Energy United has not.
All right, well, that is some good news from Fayetteville. Sure.
Just for information basis only, but the volume and the number of parties that are in the pilot study has grown since 2020. So there are more people there, and eventually there will be more renewable natural gas being put into the pipeline and perhaps available for some kind of transaction if you're looking for that.
That's the docket, the G9 sub 698, and there's an equivalent docket for PSNC G5. Forget that docket 606. That's right, and it's for any time for renewable gas, because we do have some landfill gas, some other sources. Yeah, it's a good point to bring up. 10th question. It was our understanding that at one point, parties in the buyers group were looking at using renewable natural gas at a members combined cycle facility to produce RECs. Is that still being considered? And if not, why not? Now, if anybody wants to speak to.
This is Tim Dodge with NC Electric Cooperatives. So I believe in the joint motion for clarification that was filed back in 2021. This was addressed publicly, but the RFP did allow, would have considered options from both directed biogas options that could be establish a contract path to a facility for generating RECs, or a REC only option. And so those were considered at that time. I note that the REC purchase option, I think, has lower risk concerns to some extent. And so I think that's probably, at least from NCMC's perspective, the approach that we have preferred to take. But it's the access to an efficient combined cycle plant is a big factor in how the utilization of that directed biogas and the ultimate potential pricing for those RECs. So it is a factor, and being able to access those facilities is key.
Anybody else? 11th question. It was also our understanding that a member of the buyers group was considering using renewable natural gas to power fuel cells to produce RECs. Is that project still being pursued? And if not, why not?
This is Keith Lynch with Fayetteville PWC. Gray just addressed this question eloquently, probably better than I could, but basically just to reiterate, that project we were considering a couple years ago was officially canceled, but it has been resurrected. And we're looking to try to figure out how we can make it go again. We're talking with developers, we're talking with different swine gas producers, excuse me, and hoping we can make it go at this time.
It may or may not involve a fuel cell technology. And there's also some property issues that we've got to negotiate with a partner with property that we're talking with that has run into some problems. One reason the project didn't go forward, and we're working on those issues internally to try to find the right technology and to make sure we haven't got the property rights secured for the site before we can move forward. But all of that's being actively evaluated by PwC internally at this time.
Thanks, Greg. And it may or may not be worth mentioning, but we did issue 2 RFPs for swine gas in the past, and we got no responses. So we do expect to go out for more bids and hope we get a better response this time.
All right, thank you. The 12th question, please identify and describe any legislative changes that you are seeking to the swine waste set aside, and if enacted, what would be the impact? I'll start this with Duke.
Duke is not seeking any legislative changes to the swine waste set aside.
Same response from TVA.
Tim Dodge with NC Electric Cooperatives, same response. We're not seeking any changes at this time.
Karen McClaga with Electricities, same response.
Energy United, same response.
Same with Fayetteville PwC.
Right, there's the questions for the Port Council. I do have some good news, and this is what I just gathered from press releases. Carbon Cycle Energy near Warsaw, North Carolina is getting ready to open, but they claim to be the largest digester system in the United States. So I hope that'd be some good news for producing swine waste RECs. Had 2 questions from Prestige Farms. What legislative discussions have there been about modifying, eliminating, sunsetting the reps for utilities? And it's sort of similar to the previous questions, but it's a little bit broader. Does anybody have anything they want to say in addition to any legislative discussions? Okay, Tim.
This is Tim Dodge with NC Electric Cooperatives. I can't speak broadly about that. The question seems to be open-ended about what discussions have taken place from NCMC's perspective. I'm not aware of any beyond House 385, which was passed by at least one committee and a committee substitute last year, which would have, within the last week, excuse me, which would have implications for compliance. We haven't been involved in those discussions at this time. There are, until the law, any change has taken place, we would continue to seek reasonable efforts to meet our compliance obligations. A comment I made similarly in the poultry discussion this morning, many of our members serve these farms, these operators and these facilities. And so, we want to make sure the whatever outcomes we have here, if the law is going to change, that we have, this is addressed in some holistic fashion, and we want to continue to work with parties like the Port Council on exploring those options.
Okay, second question from Prestige Farms. Have there been any inquiries over the past 12 months to or by the NCUC, North Carolina Utilities Commission, regarding the long-term effectiveness or feasibility of SB3, or that's the REPS law? If so, what is the stance or recommendation of the Utilities Commission for or against continuance of SB3? Like I said earlier, I'm not with the Utilities Commission, but I'm on the public staff side. But if people do have inquiries, a lot of times it would be an open discussion. They would get me involved, and I haven't heard anything about continuance of Senate Bill 3 or not. I probably would have heard it. I just haven't heard anything like that. But I've some people who, like, we just had the poultry waste energy meeting, and they said, yeah, there is some rumors floating around about it. I just haven't heard any direct involvement of the Utilities Commission. And typically in changes of law, the Utilities Commission will not make an official statement. The commission has to react to the law and make rules based upon it. Occasionally, the General Assembly will ask members of the public staff or the commission staff to come provide some information, but nobody has at this point. And I want to open it up. I know we've heard from all the electric power suppliers and anybody, developers or anybody regulatory, anybody, everything they want to speak about or. Okay, sure.
Cycle. It did come online in March, actually, and has been producing some swine and poultry recs for Duke. So we can't promise what they'll do in the future, but we hope they continue to ramp up compliance and hope that our position continues to increase. And then we also had 3 out-of-state swine projects come online since the last meeting. So some good news, just not enough.
Which states are those?
Iowa. They're on Iron.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Question.
Sure.
Hi, it's Kurt Olson with the Port Council. You indicated that a while back that there, or maybe recently, that there were several RFPs that were issued and there were no responses. Can you tell me when those were? 2022, and you received no responses to your request. And what you were looking for specifically? So you're looking for renewable natural gas. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Are there any more comments or questions at this for this meeting? And just because we conclude today doesn't mean no more questions or no more comments. If you have anything you want to get in touch with somebody, hang on.
Good morning, Chris Roach, Monarch Bioenergy. So last time I was in this room was 2015. We had a project that had an out-of-state offtake with Duke that I sat and listened to the comments and some issues of being a project in Missouri and delivering gas into the state. That was with Raceline and our partnership with Smithfield. So we've since developed many more projects. Frankly, all of the projects today inject RNG into various pipeline interconnections and sell to California, which has always been the best market for the last several years, from the D3 RIN, the LCFS value, and the commodity value. Today, even though many people that participate in the space are very frustrated with where LCFS prices currently sit, but the total gross value of gas today is still north of $60 a decatherm or an MMBTU. So the good news for us is Monarch Bioenergy is actively developing projects in state with as many of Smithfield and all producing partners that are in our project areas that we're developing. We're focused on doing small scale lagoon sized digesters. We've come up with a small scale gas upgrader, and we're developing 700 miles of pipelines to connect all these projects together. We've got 7 interconnect applications in the queue. The first one is moving to execution, which is a project called Register. The gas is today 100% earmarked for California because that's what makes the financials work on these projects. We have not really actively paid attention to RFPs or interest within state because historically the price points offered were too low. But, you know, I'm here today to say that we have 3.5 million decatherms of gas that we're actively developing. We've committed $30 million to a development team and partners in state doing permitting, doing right-of-way acquisition. And, you know, I think that now may be the time for the supply is from us is coming and the interest in selling is truly there. And I would much rather have opportunities to sell to the in-state utility supplying North Carolina than to sell to California.
Can I ask a question, Chair? Hi, when you sell to California, do all attributes have to accompany the gas?
Unfortunately, they do.
And that's in the LCFS? Okay.
They claim all.
Okay. So the renewable attribute and the carbon attributes.
Yeah, and I appreciate that question because speaking from my prior interaction, actually could peel off some of the environmental attributes elsewhere. And there are other emerging markets now, a lot of voluntary registry to Europe, whatever. There might be ways to come up with a optic or you can off and help get the full value of looking at this.
Thank you.
Yeah, y'all bring up some good points. North Carolina's definition of a REC does not include any air emission, carbon emission credits, and our commission has ruled that you can peel apart a megawatt hour or thermal equivalent and peel off certain renewable attributes. You can get North Carolina RECs, but you could sell carbon credits maybe to somebody else. That is something. Not to leave Dominion out, George, do you have anything, questions or comments?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. But like I was saying earlier, I know we'll break up this meeting soon, but it's not the end. If you think of questions next week or a month from now, contact me and I can maybe find the right person that you would need to talk to get problems solved. Other than that, thank y'all for being here. Appreciate everybody participating and making this a valuable meeting. And we'll meet again next year. Thank you.